Air Force's FY15 budget request came in at about $137 billion. Now, that includes both blue and non-blue budgets, with non-blue monies being allocated to space and intelligence investments totaling about $28 billion. So that really means that the Air Force's base budget request is actually around $109 billion. The Air Force is the only service that has an increase in their IT budget request for FY15. So of course that's good news for cost vendors. Specifically, the FY15 IT budget request shows an increase in DME funding of about 20% from last year. The Air Force's mentality has been evolving toward increased innovation and high-tech solutions, and that's where they want to be able to direct funds. They spend more on RDT&E than the Navy and Army combined. This means the Air Force is going to be mainly interested in two kinds of technologies. The first will be anything that helps them save in their operations so that they can divert funds to modernization efforts. And the second will be technologies that help them develop and innovate new capabilities. I think in this area, innovation for cyber tools will be a very big push, and we'll talk about that on the next slide. The Air Force downsized headquarters staff this year very quickly, and now they're trying to make sure that they're stabilizing their workforce and are figuring out how to make capability versus capacity trade-offs. And key to their strategy will be relying on technology to fill those gaps.
And one way they're figuring out these capability trade-offs is to move their personnel off of the task of managing their own IT systems. The Air Force is looking to get out of the IT business and move to either DISA or other commercial providers. And they're doing this so that they can apply more focus on their core warfighting mission. The Air Force is closely partnered with DISA to provide enterprise email, unified capabilities, and are looking to buy IT capabilities as a service wherever possible. This allows them to save money by not having to develop and manage their own IT solutions. The end goal for the Air Force's IT outsourcing and streamlining will allow them to divert funds to the types of innovative solutions that they want to focus on. They're also trying to reduce any unique requirements where possible and move to common standards to streamline processes and save dollars so that they can be freed up for modernization programs. The Air Force is also hoping to get more IT interoperability with its reserve components, since they will be relying more heavily on them to deal with reductions in force. We recently heard Eric Fanning say that cyber is a newer priority to the Air Force. They're adding it to the list along with what they've historically been focused on, nuclear, space, and electronic warfare. He said that cyber is of particular concern to him, and that if the Air Force knew what to buy for cyber capabilities, they'd buy more of it. They want to innovate and be forward-thinking to stay one step ahead of cyber threats.
So now that we've talked about what's driving the Air Force's requirements for information technology, let's shift gears a bit and look at their overall organization. And the biggest item to note here is that the AFISR agency, which acted as the A2 of the Air Force at the staff level, is now the 25th Air Force, and they're reporting up to the Air Combat Command. So now they're a numbered Air Force reporting to a MAJCOM. This is actually going to be very good news for our audience because it's going to mean that COTS will have more of a play in tactical weapons systems. Having the 25th report to the ACC will better integrate intelligence with warfighting capability. So this is going to be a good IT insertion point for analytics and virtualization, basically anything involving data. The 25th will be located at Joint Base San Antonio, along with the 24th Air Force, and I'll be speaking more about them shortly. Beginning with the A6, this is the office that sets policies, governance, and direction for IT for the rest of the Air Force to follow. They just released an updated information dominance strategy this September. In addition to the drivers we just discussed, some other initiatives they're looking to implement are heavily focused on increasing interoperability with the DoDIN, information sharing with coalition partners, and developing data standards across the Air Force. I wanted to start with the A6 because although they aren't directly purchasing products, they are influencing policy in terms of what the rest of the Air Force will be purchasing to help bring about their vision of standards and common systems. This is the two-pronged approach that we recommend for speaking both with policy and requirements folks and end users to get the most traction in an agency. In terms of personnel, the main item of note here is that Lieutenant General William Bender took over the A6 from General Basla in the beginning of October. Now let's look at one of the largest organizations within the Air Force, their Materiel Command. They're responsible for conducting RDT&E and providing acquisition management services and logistics for the Air Force. They have 6 centers to carry out their mission, which you can see on the right side of the chart highlighted in red. The Installation and Mission Support Planning Center is a new addition to the Air Force. The command activated this August and is operating provisionally at Joint Base Andrews. The Air Force announced the plan to create the center back over the summer with the goal of consolidating installation support activities across the Air Force, also helping them to meet their staff reduction goals. Think of this as an internal shared service for common installation-related services, and that frees up resources and time for commanders to focus on the core warfighting mission.
Now we want to focus on one of Materiel Command centers, the Air Force Life Cycle Management Center located on Hanscom Air Force Base. Lieutenant General John Thompson just took over as commander, and for COTS vendors, this organization has 3 PEOs for acquisition that are very relevant to the IT product community, which we've highlighted. Think of the PEO for battle management as providing the applications for the Air Force's C2 systems. The PEO for business enterprise systems provides IT systems for logistics and maintenance operations. And then that all rests on the Air Force's IT infrastructure provided by PEO C3INN. And we'll all be highlighting a couple of their IT investments when we talk programs. If you sell solutions in prevention, detection, response, and forensics, you'll want to talk to PEO C3IN because they'll have a big play in cyberspace for protection of the Air Force's infrastructure. After all, they manage the Air Force's cyberspace defense weapon systems. And so they work very closely with the 24th Air Force, or AFCyber, in this mission.
So now let's look at the 24th org chart. Note that they report up to SpaceCom. The Air Force relies on AFCyber to operate and defend their portion of the DoDIN. Think of the 24th as the provider of network operations, protection, and cyber computing to the rest of the Air Force who consume those services and technologies. The 24th relies on cybersecurity technologies to help them make their operations seamless and automated. AFCyber, of course, isn't the only place where cyber requirements are written in the Air Force. They're written as part of all IT requirements. But AFCyber is the place to start for cybersecurity requirements at the Air Force enterprise level. And one final note on how the Air Force acquires cybersecurity capabilities and products, just like how the Navy has its innovation cell, the Air Force also has a cyber solution cell within the PEO for C3INN. This office can help you get your products to market faster, and they're also co-located with the 24th.
Well, let's talk about some of the IT investment programs that will direct what kinds of technologies the Air Force will be purchasing in FY15. Mission Planning Systems is a collection of individual programs that provide automated flight and weapons delivery planning. MPS provides mission planning capabilities for aircraft across all of the military. And the goal here is to migrate legacy systems to a multi-service open architecture system called the Joint Mission Planning System. And this is meant to aid with a big problem DoD is experiencing. We talked about reliance on data and communication in the battlefield. Well, if their aircraft can't communicate with each other, they're going to lose the edge to the enemy. And the military needs to be coordinated to be more powerful, especially since they are now relying on pooling their resources and working together more. And here is an example of where they need IT to meet this capability. The system runs on COTS and common hardware, and they need any solutions they buy to be interoperable with the existing systems. They don't have to do fixes or reinstalls. Now, this program is run out of the ACC to provide combat weapon systems for the Air Force. And this is going back to what we said earlier. This is a program that shows the increasing role COTS can play in tactical systems, especially in terms of data integration for better performance of weapon systems. Now, let's look at a program that will help streamline business operations for the Air Force. EAMS is the ERP that will replace their legacy financial systems. We mentioned earlier DoD's preparation for its audit and the scrutiny its financial systems are facing. Well, this is Exhibit A. The Air Force is concerned because Deems is facing some of the same issues the failed ECSS procurement did, and they can't let that happen again. Cost overruns have exceeded $1 billion over the past 10-plus years, and completion dates have continuously slipped. The Air Force just awarded a contract to Accenture that runs through April 2017, and it's expected to take the program through its final deployment for the Air Force and other DoD agencies. In the final phase of rolling out this capability and fixing the problems it's encountered along the way, the Air Force will be looking for products to help with business process reengineering, data management, and integration for consolidating those legacy systems. Basically, anything that can help them improve functionality. And you'll want to talk with Shirley Reed in the Business and Enterprise Systems PEO at Maxwell Gunter Air Force Base in Alabama.
Last but not least for the Air Force are the BII and BIDI wired programs for base information infrastructure and transport. Both are run out of the PEO C3INN up at Hanscom, which is the organization most critical to the Air Force's network. These are the programs that the Air Force is using for their portion of the JIE infrastructure. The programs provide network engineering support to the Air Force enterprise and installations. Much of the focus for FY15 for these infrastructure programs will involve MPLS installs at various Air Force bases, both CONUS and OCONUS. And the Air Force is targeting the end of FY17 to complete the installs. Increasing network bandwidth is vital to modernization, increases network reliability, and will allow the Air Force to better accommodate its growing data problems. Along with MPLS, another JIE effort relevant to these programs is unified capabilities, because the infrastructure that they're building out needs the support UC, which is going to be an important shared service for collaboration. There's a lot of addressable DME in these programs, so they're a really great place to start to help the Air Force modernize their infrastructure.